Everybody. I'm doing this 2020 style today because I'm sick and I don't want you to be sick. So, welcome to the April 28th meeting of the MCCSC Board of School Trustees. We ask that you please come to order. This is a time set aside to celebrate members of our school community. This is the Excellence Spotlight. Ms. Harmon.
Thank you, President Cooperman, Dr. Winston, the Board of School Trustees, and community members. It's my pleasure to share this month's Excellence Spotlight, which is a feature of every regular Board of School Trustees meeting. It's a dedicated time to honor the excellence occurring every day through the dedication of MCCSC employees, students, and volunteers who make a difference in our school community and foster environments that reflect the MCCSC mission, vision, and core values. First, we'd like to recognize Peter Kovacs, Bloomington High School South student. He is a sophomore at South, and he's this month's Student Excellence Spotlight honoree for his remarkable achievements at the IHSAA Boys Swimming State Finals. Peter captured 2 state titles, winning both the 50-yard freestyle and the 100-yard freestyle, a rare accomplishment that makes him only the second sophomore in school history to claim dual state championships in the same year. Congratulations to Peter for his dedication, competitive spirit, and exceptional representation of Bloomington High School South. Let's celebrate his continued excellence and bright future. I don't think he's here this evening, but we can give him a hand. Second, we'd like to recognize Dr. Troy Cochran, Bloomington High School North, English 10, Yearbook, Advanced Speech, and Journalism teacher. He has been selected as the 25-26 Armstrong Teacher Educator by the Indiana University School of Education. This prestigious honor recognizes exceptional educators across Indiana and provides opportunities to engage with IU students and faculty through panels, discussions, and collaborative activities throughout the academic year. Dr. Cochran's selection reflects his commitment to excellence in teaching and leadership in education. Congratulations. And he is here this evening.
Ms. Harmon, did you have more?
Nope, that's it for this evening. Thank you.
Okay. On behalf of the board, thank you, Ms. Harmon, and congratulations. If we could have, oh, we did that. Okay. After the picture, we will now proceed to public comment. We have no public comments, so we will now proceed to the consent agenda. So now for our consideration is the consent agenda that includes the following: minutes from the board meeting held on March 24th, 2026, memorandum from executive session on April 14th, 2026, ECA expenditures, overnight out-of-state field trips, financial report, March 2026, appropriation balance report, March 2026, register of claims, April 28th, 2026, payroll register and payroll claims, March 2026, request to declare as surplus and authorize disposal of out-of-date items. Do I have a motion regarding the approval of the consent agenda?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
It's been moved by Ross and seconded by Tiana that we approve the consent agenda as presented. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? The motion carries. Next for our consideration are the donations. We have received donations of over $2,500. Thank you to all of our donors. Your generosity is appreciated. Do I have a motion to accept the donations?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
It's been moved by Aaron Wyatt and seconded by Ross that we accept the donations as presented. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any against? Abstentions? Motion carries. Next for our consideration is the personnel report. Do I have a motion to approve the personnel report as presented?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
It's been moved by Ross and seconded by Tiana that we approve the personnel report as presented. Dr. Henderson?
Good evening, President Cooperman, Dr. Winston, members of the Board of School Trustees. This evening, I would like to call your attention to the following administrative recommendation. Andrew Harding, Assistant Athletic Director at Bloomington High School North, teacher and head football coach. So we're excited to make that recommendation to you this evening. Unfortunately, Mr. Harding is unable to join us this evening as he is in North Carolina finishing up his current school year. So wanted to share that exciting news with you this evening. In addition to that, I'd like to call to your attention the following retirements. We have an administrative retirement, Mr. Sean Gobert, who has been serving as the principal at Fairview Elementary School for the last 10 years. Additional certified staff retirements, Mr. Paul Farmer. Mr. Paul Farmer has been with MCCSC for the last 37 years, most recently serving as the evaluation systems coach for the school corporation. Jonna Fox. Ms. Fox has been with MCCSC for the last 32 years, most recently serving as a kindergarten teacher at Lakeview Elementary School. Lee Heffernan. Ms. Heffernan has been with MCCSC for the last 37 years, most recently serving as a third grade teacher at Childs Elementary School. Daria Smith. Ms. Smith has been with MCCSC for the last 36 years, serving as a high school fine arts teacher at Bloomington High School North. Jennifer Starnes, teacher at Lakeview Elementary School, has been with MCCSC for the last 22 years, most recently serving as a fourth grade teacher there at Lakeview. Support staff retirements, Lydell Newell. Mr. Newell has been with MCCSC for the last 40 years, most recently serving as a supervising foreperson specializing as an electrician at the service building. Altogether, the retirees presented this evening represent a combined total of 214 years of service to our school community. On behalf of MCCSC, I would like to extend a special thank you to all of these individuals for their many years of dedicated service and wish them well in their next adventures. At this time, I request that you please approve the recommendations presented in your board packet in the personnel report.
Thank you, Dr. Henderson. Are there any comments from the board?
Congratulations to the retirees.
Mr. Gober is the principal at my kid's school, and we are really going to miss him. He is such a cheerful presence and a bright light. Most recently, he and the assistant principal dressed up as 6'7" for the Halloween bash, which I thought was amazing, and so did the kids. So we're really going to miss him, but I wish him all the best. Yeah, thank you. All those in favor of approving the personnel report as presented signify by saying aye. Aye. Any against? Abstentions? The motion carries. We will now move to the contracts. Do I have a motion to approve the contracts and quotes as presented?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
It's been moved by Ross and seconded by Aaron Wyatt that we approve the contracts and quotes as presented. Mr. Irwin?
Yeah, thank you. All contracts have been reviewed through our process and are set for your approval, and I recommend all contracts as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Irwin. All those in favor of approving the contracts and the quotes signify by saying aye. Aye. Any against? Abstentions? Motion carries. Next is the first reading of the anti-harassment policy for professional staff, support staff, and students. Dr. Henderson?
Thank you again, President Cooperman, Dr. Winston, members of the Board of School Trustees. The anti-harassment policy for professional staff 3362, support staff 4362, and students 5517 is presented for first reading. This policy has been revised to reflect changes in current law. The anti-harassment policy for professional staff, support staff, and students is presented for the first reading and will be presented a second time for a recommendation to adopt at the May 19th, 2026 board meeting.
Thank you, Dr. Henderson. Are there any comments from the board? As Dr. Henderson noted, as this is a first reading, no action is required. Again, we will bring this will come back to the board in May for the second and final reading. Thank you again, Dr. Henderson.
Thank you.
Tonight's first presentation is the CFO financial update. Mr. Irwin?
Thank you for the opportunity to provide an update, and I'll get started with talking about our education fund. In the monthly specifics, some of this is kind of routine as we get to talking, and to me, and routine in this way, it's a good thing. Revenue being slightly above projections and expenses being slightly below. In an ideal world, that's what we want to see. And the long-term outlook piece, updated state tuition support, we provided the DOE with our estimated ADM for the fall. That dictates our funding for July 1 through October. When they look at our actual fall count, based on the estimate that they give, they'll update our funding in November and December, either up or down based on our estimate. We use the estimate that correlated with our spring ADM count, and so that will be the way that they will fund us starting out with July 1. As you look into April, you'll see some dip in expense projections, and that has to do with the timing of payrolls that are inclusive of spring break. So when we don't have everyone reporting to work, our expenses go down. And so as you look at the ebbs and flows of the cash flows in those lines, that's something that I want to call your attention to. And then again, overall fund cash balance projects to be up in the education fund. And after that, I put strategic use of one-time funds. We talked extensively about the use of one-time funds and how we are using those to position us to give us a longer runway to make structural changes, but as well as to put the appropriate cash balances in place. Not only do we need to achieve balance, but we need those appropriate safety nets. And so we were able to receipt in some of the IRS rebates from our solar energy projects in the past. And so by managing the transfer from ed to ops that's necessary in order to maintain expenditures and the necessary things we need to do in the operations fund, those one-time funds allow us to make some adjustments to that, which benefits the education fund. Overall cash balance still below target, but we are making progress and looking forward to talking more about that at next month's May quarterly report. 2022 referendum, again, some of this is very redundant from what you saw in the past month because there's just not a lot of activity in our tax levied funds from the referendums in the debt service fund as it relates to revenue throughout the year. The majority of the revenue that we receive in those funds is simply around June and December as it relates to property tax disbursement, which the primary revenue source for those funds. Expenses below projections, very accurate, and we're headed in the right direction. Overall cash balance for this year particularly projects to be up, but again, in the long term, as SEA 1 impacts affect the way that it generates revenue, we will continue to eat into cash balance as we manage the demands of the referendum and what it provides for. So that has not changed from last month. When you look at the 2023 referendum, again, that same piece, again, no revenue, again, that's normal. Try to make sure to point to you what's normal and what's not normal so that you kind of get in tune with the ebbs and flows. And then again, expenses being very accurate. Cash balance projects to be up in that individual fund as well. One of the things that we spent a lot of time on is we've been working on the fund simplification of how we account for early learning expenses and making sure that we put that in a method that's a little bit easier to track as it relates to the individual funds, as well as what the demand is on the 2023 referendum to support early learning, especially in the midst of the state making changes to CCDF vouchers, On My Way Pre-K. I know Governor Braun talked about some updates to increasing that. Still trying to delineate what the impact is going to be as far as how that impacts the necessity of folks in the community to access the referendum. But again, because we have this referendum is why we're able to provide early learning in a way that other school corporations are not able to. So just providing a quick update there. And then in the operations fund, just correlating back to what we talked about in the education fund, and I talked about this, we received one of the energy one-time funds, IRS rebates from those past energy projects. And again, that was the major revenue source that you saw in this month's number. And that, again, we backed off the ed to ops transfer to allow that one-time gain in cash balance to be affected in the education fund as we manage that there. March's payroll and benefits, again, extremely accurate. And then in the other lines, when you look in the operations fund as it relates to utilities, supplies, services, all those things in those lines, I've taken a look each month as it relates to, they're coming in below projections, but is that something that has to do with the timing of an invoice or the timing of when something gets paid? And so taking a look into that and saying how much of that below the projection needs to be rolled forward to the next month because of the timing of when a bill will actually hit and when it's paid. So that's something we spend a lot of time looking at to make sure that's as accurate as possible. 2026 fund balance projects to be down a little bit. And I'm also waiting on the DLGF to release what's called the circuit breaker report. That report gives us an updated estimate of losses that are attributable to the funds from either property tax cap credits or, in this case, because of this year, the effects of SEA 1. And kind of talking with some peers, I think the effects of SEA 1 and some of the new implications of that, I think, has slowed down the progress of the DLGF providing that report. But again, that's always something that is a good check-in to say, are the numbers that we have in our projections correlating to what the DLGF is projecting as well? And does that mean that we need to make any necessary adjustments to our projections because of what's in there? So continue to look out for that. And then when that does come in, then we'll take a look at the projections and see if that necessitates us making any sort of change. And then the last one, the debt service fund, the last of the 5 major funds, again, no activity. And then again, just reminding you, this year is the only year that we have the option to spread the supplemental homestead deduction loss across our tax levied funds. If we spread it across, it projects to affect the debt service fund by about $750,000 of loss to the levy in that fund. We've been having lots of conversations with Stiefel, Baker Tilly, and our partners about what is the best case scenario for MCCSC as far as how to take this loss. But again, just that reminder that in 2027, all of that loss goes to the operations fund. We'll provide you with an update when we make that decision. We have to provide a written update to the DOGF by May 15th of what we decide to do so that they know how to spread that across our funds when they roll out that information. So with that, I appreciate the opportunity to give you an update. Looking forward to next month when we have our next quarterly update. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Irwin. Are there any comments or questions from the board? Thanks again, Mr. Irwin. Next is a state accountability update from Ms. Harmon.
Thank you, Board President Cooperman, Dr. Winston, Board of School Trustees, and community members. I appreciate being able to present tonight on Indiana's new state accountability model, which was finalized and approved in March. Tonight, I want to cover really 4 things at a high level. First, how this model was developed. Second, an overview of how the model works. And third, how schools will ultimately receive a grade. And finally, what this means for us locally. I think it's helpful for us to look a little bit at the development of the new accountability model. School letter grades were last issued in 2018. Since then, a combination of factors, particularly including transitions to new assessment, new testing models, as well as COVID-19, paused that accountability system. But in 2025, the state legislature required a new A through F accountability system, and the Department of Education then released a first draft of that system in June of 25 with a public comment period, and then followed by a second draft and a second public comment period in the fall. The final model was approved in March of 2026, really recently, and this current school year is considered what the state is calling year 0. A little bit about what year 0 means is that the 25-26 school year is a transition year. The state will calculate grades, but they're informational only. So there are what they consider no punitive measures attached. It's also important to note that the grading scale they plan to change over the course of the next few years, becoming more rigorous. So in this year, that grading scale is what's referenced as the initial scale there. One challenge worth naming is timing. The model was finalized very late in the school year, which limits the time schools have had to fully align to all of the new expectations here. At the center of this model is the Department of Education's vision. I've quoted it here, and it's to value not just academic performance, but the full range of knowledge, skills, and experiences students need to be successful. This includes academic mastery, but also things like communication, work ethic, and readiness for college, career, and life. At a high level, the model works like this. Every student earns points in 2 areas. First, academic mastery, primarily based on ELA and math, and then second, additional points tied to knowledge, skills, and experience. Those points are then used to calculate a school's overall grade. At the elementary and middle schools, the process is straightforward. Every student earns points. All students' points are averaged together. That average becomes a school's final A through F grade. And then a key concept here that the state has spoken a lot about is that every student counts equally. High schools are slightly different. They work similarly, but they have additional elements to align them to federal accountability. So 80% of the grade comes from student level points, described like in elementary and middle, but then 10% comes from the school's graduation rate, and 10% comes from the school's average SAT performance as well. So again, the structure is similarly, but with these added additional elements. To speak a little bit about how it's organized, it's focused on grade bands with different priorities at each stage. Early grades focus heavily on literacy and math. Middle grades add growth and additional content areas. High school expands to include readiness, coursework, and experience. In K-3, the focus is very clearly literacy and math. Students earn points based on proficiency, reading performance, attendance, and early literacy growth. It reflects the state's emphasis on building strong foundational skills. In grades 4 through 6, the model expands. In addition to proficiency, students earn points for growth, including 1 year of growth, more than a year of growth, and what is called growth to proficiency, and that's making progress on what your growth should be. Science and social studies are also included here, along with attendance and English learner progress. In grades 7 through 8, those same elements continue, and now we have the addition of early high school readiness indicators, like completing a graduation plan in 7th grade and completing high school level coursework while in middle school. In grades 9 through 10, the focus shifts more clearly to college and career readiness. Students earn points for being on track in core courses, earning credits, and participating in advanced coursework, as well as meeting benchmarks on assessments like PSAT. In grades 11 and 12, the model emphasizes outcomes even more. This includes earning a diploma, completing credentials of value, and participating in work-based learning, and again, meeting college readiness benchmarks on ACT and things like that. So what this means for us, what we know and what we don't. As we think about implementation, there are these things we do know and some things we're still learning. What we know is that this model closely aligns with our current priorities, particularly around literacy, numeracy, and growth for all students. It also places a strong emphasis on attendance and each individual student's progress. At the same time, there are still important details being finalized by the state. That includes exactly how certain indicators will be calculated, the development of data systems and reporting tools, and how the grading scale will evolve after this initial transition period. There will also likely be a period of data validation, making sure that everything is being reported accurately and consistently across schools across the state. So while the framework is in place, we should expect continued refinement as implementation moves forward. And we will continue to monitor that implementation closely and keep you all up to date. Thank you very much.
Are there any comments or questions from the board?
I know you said every student, how are they going to handle like self-contained high special ed classrooms, that type of thing?
So there's an assessment called IM, and it's the iLearn equivalent, kind of. for those populations.
Ms. Harmon, if I'm not mistaken, the reason that many states have moved away from this kind of A through F grading system is because it can have a negative impact on schools that have complex populations. Do you know if there's anything in our state's plan to address that?
I'd hate to speak for the state directly about that. I
That's
mean,
fair.
I think that they have tried to add aspects of experience, other elements beyond just ELA and math performance. I think that that might be something they're trying to address with that.
Thank you. Are there any other comments or questions from the board? All right, Ms. Harmon, please proceed to the next presentation on college and career opportunities.
Thank you. Again, it's a pleasure to be here speaking to you. I want to, as we get started with our college and career student supports presentation, acknowledge that this is really, to some extent, presentation is an extension of the presentation in December that focused on our elementary schools, where you heard about the strong work happening there, specifically around foundational literacy, numeracy, and database decision making. So that presentation focused on how we build the skills students need at the very beginning of their academic journey. And tonight's presentation is a continuation of that story. So we're going to shift the focus to secondary level, where those foundation skills are expanded, applied, and refined as we prepare students for graduation and life beyond MCCSC. Just for a second to think about our agenda, we'll explore how our work at the secondary level builds directly on the systems you saw at the elementary level. You'll hear about how instruction continues to be aligned and intentional, how we support students as content becomes more complex, and how we use data and targeted supports to ensure students stay on track for success. While the context looks different in middle and high school, the core principles remain the same: strong instruction, aligned systems, and responsive support for every student. Last time, you may remember this slide, but maybe not. It was December. So we highlighted our district's mission and vision, and our 3 goals that are applied to all of our levels of literacy, numeracy, and then college and career. Tonight, I'll be joined by Mr. Eric Gilpin, our Director of Secondary Ed, as we speak to all 3 of these things with an emphasis a little bit on college and career as well. As we look at the secondary level, students are expected to read, to learn, think critically, and apply mathematical reasoning in more complex ways. Because of this shift, our sports evolve, but they remain grounded in the same commitments around high-quality, standards-aligned instruction, ongoing use of data to guide decisions, and systems of support designed to meet students where they are. This alignment ensures that students experience a consistent and supportive learning journey from elementary through graduation. As we move to the specifics of this work, it's important that you hear directly from the leaders who support it. So I'd like to invite Eric Gilpin, our Director of Secondary Ed, who will walk you through how these systems come to life in our middle and high schools and the impact they are having on our students.
Thank you, Ms. Harmon. As I think about advanced literacy and numeracy, I get the image of building a house and the foundational skills of literacy and numeracy being built at the early elementary years. And as they move up the ladder, as they move up the more complexity of the building of the house, we get into more advanced literacy and numeracy skills. Specifically, as we talk about advanced literacy, you may have heard the phrase from K through 3, they are learning to read, and after that, they're reading to learn. This concept of digging deeper and more critically into what they are doing in literacy, learning how to look at literacy in a way that will analyze, synthesize, evaluate, and also create a opportunity to compare and contrast in their reading. So as we look at those particular skills at the middle school and high school, they are assessed at our state standards, in the state standards through iLearn. And you can see as a corporation, we perform higher than the state average at both our 7th and 8th grade. As we look at the SAT, which is more of a national standard, when we compare it to the rest of the state, we perform higher, 15% higher than the rest of the state. Again, going into advanced numeracy, looking at more complex skills where you are taking something that you learned and applying it in a new way, critical thinking, and looking into complex problem-solving skills. Again, this is measured through our iLearn. We see that our students are well above the state average in both 7th and 8th grade, And then you see our SAT scores significantly higher than the state average. You may have seen this headline about a week and a half ago on a Sunday. Astonishingly good job. A professor at Ball State was doing some research on I-Learn and SAT scores in the state of Indiana and was trying to eliminate things in the scoring that might enhance or struggle, if schools may struggle based on these scores, taking these things like SES and other things that may be determiners about how a school might perform. He eliminated some of those things, took a look at how all schools and school districts are doing, and his response was that MCCSC is doing astonishingly good. We are the top in the region and in the top area of the state in our SAT scores. As we move forward into middle school and we talk about exploration into college and careers, we have several opportunities for our students. Specifically, in our content areas of English, science, social studies, and math, we begin to explore careers and pathways in those content areas. We offer all kinds of electives for students to explore their interests, to find out, one of the good things about exploration is also finding what you don't like, and so they have an opportunity to see try those opportunities in middle school as they prepare for high school. Many of our students take advantage of taking high school courses, including the math and language arts. In 7th grade specifically, our students are developing a graduation plan. They will look to see what it takes with this new diploma to graduate in 4 years in MCCSC. They'll begin to develop a plan as to the courses that they would like to take, and also look at what do they want to do in the future to think about the courses they should take to prepare them for that. Our students are offered the opportunity of a program called Career Cruising. Career Cruising is held at the Monroe County Convention Center. Local businesses and industries will have a booth where all these students will get to visit what kind of careers are at those booths. Instead of me going into all about it, I'm going to let one of our own middle schools give you a little hint of what this looks like from Bachelor's Television, edited for time, but they gave us a presentation. So a little sampling of our student work as well as some of the opportunities that they have available to them as they think about their future. Specifically in 8th grade, as we move forward, they take a class called Preparing for College and Careers, which is exactly what the title is what they do. One specific activity they do in there, they take a interest inventory to find out what might be some careers out there that fit their interests. They do some studying on that career, what it takes to get into that career. And then this year, they actually paired that with the reality fair. I don't know if you're familiar with the reality fair, but this is each middle school has this fair where the community businesses come in and they volunteer to man a booth. Students look at a career that they have and they're told how much money they would be making in a month. Then they have to go to these various booths and budget. So they go to transportation, they have to figure out what kind of transportation can they afford on the budget that they have from the salary they have from the career that they chose. They'll do that for housing. They have some miscellaneous things that happen. Maybe children show up, different things. They get these different expenses. They have to figure out how to live off of the money that they have. It's a great opportunity for our students. They've been doing this for years. This year is the first year we've tied that into our PCC course. Ivy Tech would host an 3E Ignite where students can go there and they will have an opportunity to pursue a career path and find out what kind of things are involved in those careers. And Ivy Tech will show them like healthcare, technology, and they get to see the different things that they would be able to do in those various careers. And as we move forward and we think about high school and preparing them for beyond high school, the state has helped us out, if you will, by developing a new diploma. They call it the Future Ready Diploma. It's structured with 42 core classes. You may be familiar with the Core 40. That's what most of our students are currently graduating. Core 40 because they need 40 credits. So you can see that they are now adding 2 additional credits they will need to take. Some classes that are additional, they'll have to take a personal finance course, computer science class. They've offered them an opportunity for STEM science to replace some of their science classes and show proficiency in communication. In addition to that, they've changed the elective credits to be more flexible. There's been some concern in the state when this was going through, and even in our own area, what this might do to the art electives. We recognize that. We've watched this year's freshman class, and as they take their choices for their sophomore year and our 8th graders come in, we have not seen a dip in those classes. What we do know is this actually may allow more students to take art because they don't have to art classes, fine art, practical art classes because they don't have to take other classes. So there's a possibility, an upside to actually see more. We have a very strong community in the fine arts and practical arts. Students get these opportunities outside the school setting as well as the community coming in and the various courses we offer. So we believe that this still be strong in our community. After you get done with your 42 credits, there's opportunities to receive seals. There's 3 different seals. One focusing on college, which we call enrollment. One focusing on going right into the workforce after you graduate, which is called employment. And one going into one of the branches of the military called enlistment. They have a regular seal, then they have an Honors Plus seal, and there's various activities or classes they need to participate in to receive those seals. As we look at what we're offering and preparing, one of the things that we pride ourselves in here is some of the advanced coursework that our students have available to them. You'll notice we have 26 college and career pathways, 34 advanced placement, or often called AP courses, over 41 dual credit courses. Our students can graduate with what's called the Indiana College Core, also referred to as ICC. They have 30 college credits that all public institutions will accept, as well as most private institutions. If a student were to go into a liberal arts school, they would have basically walking in be a sophomore if they completed this. So lots of opportunities that are taking place, and many of our students are taking advantage of this. In fact, we recognize the importance of these AP and dual credit courses. There's a lot of research around how important it is for students as they go into the college. You can see here there's a higher enrollment rate and there's more success in college if they've been doing this in high school. These numbers that are sitting there, this is this year's numbers. We had over 2,800 dual credit classes taken. We had almost 2,800 advanced placement classes taken. And when you combine the students, 9th through 12th grade and all of our 4 high schools, 56% of our students took at least one AP or dual credit course this year in 2025-26, which is pretty impressive. we started thinking about, wow, what's that mean for the future? And as a parent who has sent his kids through school, thought about the money impact of it. So we did some little number crunching here, and not this year because they haven't taken AP courses, but this number is based on last year. The families in our community, based on their AP scores and dual credit classes that they took, have saved over $66 million through just being able to take these courses at our local schools. We have a 95% graduation rate last year, and we had a 68% of our students in 2023 enroll in college. Our students go all over the United States and actually all over the world. They'll be at some very prestigious universities. But most of our students actually attend Indiana University and Ivy Tech, which shouldn't surprise us because this is a great resource that we have in our backyard. Excellent university, excellent community college, offers our students so many opportunities. But most of our students actually choose this as an option for their college. We asked some of our students what they were thinking about the AP courses, the dual credits. You can see here some of our quotes. What you'll find is a common theme of understanding the importance of the rigor, preparing them for college and beyond, and also this money that they save. As we look at career preparation, we have this wonderful picture here of Dr. Winston with several students there at Hoosier Hills. Now, this kind of gives us a false sense that these college and career pathways are only at Hoosier Hills. They do have many, but all 4 of our high schools have career pathways. And you can see a sampling of some of the ones that we have available for us. 26. These prepares for the enrollment, employment, and enlistment opportunities that are now being pushed through our new diploma. But there's more than just these opportunities. We offer all kinds of experiences. The clubs, arts, and athletics. It seems like every day I'm either opening the paper or getting an email from a principal about one of our students being successful in one of these areas. In fact, online, I'm not sure when it hit the paper, if it's hit, I don't necessarily get the hard copy, but you may have noticed that 2 of our students just received the prize for an app that they had created. National recognition. Pretty impressive things. In addition to that, we have always offered, we call this work-based learning. We've had this for a long time here at MCCSC. We have more than 400 students in a year that will go through internships. But the state has, if you remember the SEALs and then some of the accountability, there's some work-based learning. And they put some parameters around there, so we've been adjusting to those parameters. And for us to help understand a little bit where these things fall, we've broken them down into 4 categories: simulated work experiences, traditional jobs, internships, and apprenticeships. So to help us understand a little bit, we have several already simulated work experiences here in MCCSC. Our automotive shop at Hoosier Hills is a prime example. These students take the class because they want to learn more about automotive. They want to learn about it, they want to fix it. Well, they get hands-on experience because community members will actually bring their vehicles in for them to work on. So they get an opportunity to diagnose and repair vehicles, as well as learn customer service. And of course, they understand the essentials of the safety procedures as they go through this. You can see some of our quotes from some of the students at Hoosier Hills who are in courses like this. Another prime simulated work experience is our coffee shop at Bloomington South. If you have an opportunity, I encourage you. It's open from 9 to 10:30 every day to go get a cup of coffee there. It is good coffee. I asked the teacher a few questions about that when it first kind of opened up, and she was telling me these students, they have figured out exactly how much a cup of coffee will cost them. From the cup to the coffee grinds to the machine that they've had to use, all of it, so they know exactly how much they have to charge in order to make sure they are paying for that cup of coffee. But in their own desires for their own classmates, they want to make sure that they're not outpricing their classmates. And they've kept the prices low to make sure they cover the expenses, but not making it so expensive that students can't come in and get a cup of coffee. Oftentimes it's iced coffee or smoothies or other drinks. So they have a real work experience in this, doing inventory, bookkeeping, ordering. It's a great experience for our students over there. If you've been in MCCSC for any length of time and you've been over to Hoosier Hills, you probably have heard of the Dewdrop Inn. It's been around for quite a while. And they will actually do some catering if you would like them to do that for you. But it's our culinary arts where students are learning how to work their way around in the kitchen as chefs, recipes, but not just that, but also to run it as a business. They are open on Thursdays and Fridays and have great food. So again, an opportunity if you want to use them. We have used them anytime for some of our principal things. Great food. In addition to that, when they graduate, most of these students will graduate with certification to be able to work in the food service industry. And then finally, one of our new opportunities in an apprenticeship. This is called Upskill. It's run through Regional Opportunity Initiative. We've partnered with them in many things over the last several years. ROI has developed this what's called Upskill. They go into our business community and ask business partners if they'd be willing to hire a student for 2 to 3 years. When they get that partnership, then they will take that to the schools and say, here is an opportunity for somebody who might be interested in this field of study to be able to work there. The students have to apply, they have to build a resume, and they have to interview competitively. And then the industry, that business will choose who they want to come work for them. We have a student right here, Gahati from North, who has been chosen. She's been working at German American Bank. She has, this year as a senior, has a direct admit to the Kelly School of Business and attributes much of what her ability to be able to get in that to the work that she did with German American Bank. She will continue to work for them after she graduates and possibly could continue to work for them after she graduates from Indiana University if she chooses to pursue that as an option. Awesome opportunities for our students. One, thank you, but I really need to thank two things. First, the board for these opportunities these students are able to have. Without your insight, without your support, these things wouldn't exist. But also the community, the referendum, and the money that goes into that. These opportunities for these students wouldn't exist, and we have plenty of opportunities that just these kids are blossoming in. So I want to thank you, thank the community. Any questions?
Questions for Mr. Gilpin?
I of course have a few.
Yep.
When talking about the high school pathway with communication, is that oral and written? How is that?
The state just says you have to show proficiency in communication. They haven't told us exactly what that looks like, but we are using created a rubric to work with business partners as well as classes in communication that can be identified as a skill. And so we are taking it as both written and oral.
Okay. And then are universities seeing a high level of dual credit completion as a plus in the admissions process?
Yes, I think that in some levels, what they're seeing is they know that if a student is completing these type of courses, they are more prepared, which means they have to do less work with them as freshmen to be able to be prepared. There's remediation courses sometimes, and they're less likely to be having to be a part of that.
And then my final one, the coffee shop at South is a great example. And you were talking about how they costed everything out. Are they even including depreciating the equipment and things like that?
I don't know if that came into it.
I was just curious.
Yeah.
I was gonna say thanks, but also it's nice because I've actually got to work with some students intern with me
Mhm.
from both high schools and seen the effects of what you all are doing. So thank you. And I'm glad you mentioned that 56%. I'll have to do my AP report for what is that, my committee?
Yes. Yes.
Because you've already highlighted what I wanted to highlight
Okay.
there as well, because that was really interesting at the committee meeting that I learned too the other day. It probably was it yesterday?
Yeah, I think that
Yeah,
was yesterday.
yesterday.
Or
So
no, it was Monday.
yeah,
Yeah, that was yesterday.
yeah. And I think going back to Ross's question, when he asked about like dual credits, I mean, I see like the students that come to Luddy having dual credits do pay off, and the students that I don't know the difference between the two. When they take like the finite math
Yes.
and W131, that translates directly into IU, and that helps them. I tell every student they can take that finite math in the high school, take it,
Yeah.
because it really prepares them for a lot of our programs. So, but thank you for all your work.
Thank you, Mr. Gilpin. I appreciated both that there were some impressive stats in there, and also the examples that you showed us really helps us imagine what's happening in the schools. And I also appreciate that you reminded us that our community has supported a lot of these activities, and I think the board would also second that appreciation. We're very grateful to the community.
Oh, another question. Can we go to that coffee shop? How do you go? You just pop in?
So you have to check in the office.
I know I get permission to go.
Then check in the office, and then you can walk over there and order. I suggest you come around to 9. You start to get closer later in, it's very busy and the line backs up. So the closer to 9 you go, the quicker you get in.
Okay,
Just
check
speaking
it
from
out.
experience.
Good tip.
Not that I've ever been there.
Get you in.
Yes.
Thanks.
Did she get a fast pass?
Yes. There we go.
Thank you, Mr. Gilpin. Thank you, Ms. Harmon. We are going to follow this with an update from the Redistricting Study Commission. Dr. Dowling.
Good evening, President Cooperman, Dr. Winston, and the Board of School Trustees. Thank you for this opportunity to provide a redistricting study update. Tonight I'll be presenting the findings. As I often do, I've started with the project charter because it defines the scope of our work. As outlined in our project charter, our project purpose was to study redistricting as a mechanism to balance socioeconomic status within schools while considering cost effectiveness of current and redistricted models. We have 2 topics tonight: public voice. The commission served as an opportunity for our public to have an opportunity to participate in the redistricting study work. I'll also be sharing the commission's findings. Just a reminder, the commission's role was to present information, not recommendations. The commission served as our public voice during our redistricting study, allowed us to find out what mattered most to our community as we studied redistricting. We had 9 meetings. We studied over 50 example scenarios. This was over 25 hours of work for our commission members. We're able to incorporate directly from our public input top considerations that matter to our community. We also had diverse representation. We had parents, staff members, community members, teachers. We had a research-based approach embedded throughout our process. In addition to the 2 board priorities of balancing SES and cost effectiveness, as I mentioned, we had considerations that came directly from our public via public survey and from our commission members. These 4 considerations from our public were capacity, resource allocation, and class sizes, minimizing student reassignment, transportation, and neighborhood or community schools. Turning now to our findings, I'll be sharing 6 findings from our commission tonight. The first is that redistricting can improve SES balance. Through studying example scenarios, we found many scenarios that showed improvements in SES balance. Our research process showed us that when clear rationales, defined parameters or non-negotiables, and desired outcomes are established, redistricting efforts were more successful. That came directly from the research that we studied. Some examples of this for board priority 1 are maximum SES range, moving all schools towards a targeted SES value, and moving as many schools as possible towards a targeted value. Our second commission finding was that cost effectiveness was not, we needed more clarity on what was meant by cost effectiveness in order to fully study it. This came as feedback from our commission members. Again, returning to the research shows of redistricting, research about redistricting shows that when clear rationales, defined parameters or non-negotiables, and desired outcomes are established, redistricting efforts are more successful. Some examples of this for the board priority of cost effectiveness include defined amount of targeted savings and using utilization rates to drive efficiency. The third commission finding was that census level redistricting provides an effective framework. With the support of the Monroe County GIS coordinator, Dr. John Baton, we were able to develop a geographic information tool that allowed us to build maps for attendance zones. This tool, built using census level block groups, was a really effective tool. It allows us to use standardized geographic lines and historically neutral starting points for data-driven analysis. The fourth commission finding was that school closures are a viable option within redistricting. In the scenarios that we studied that closed one or multiple schools, we found that they did not push elementary utilization rates above 85%. We also found that when we studied these scenarios that they showed improvements in SES balance. Going to our fifth finding, elementary redistricting drives secondary SES balance. We studied multiple middle school and high school scenarios, and we found that they showed improvements or maintained SES balance. This highlights to us that because of our feeder system of elementary schools feeding into middle schools, which feed into high schools, when we create balance at the elementary school level, that naturally carries through to the secondary level, telling us that perhaps in any future redistricting work, we could focus on the elementary level, knowing that it'll carry forward to our secondary schools. The final commission finding that I'll be sharing tonight is that community considerations present trade-offs. Commission members noted the tension between the board priorities and community considerations. For example, for maps that work to improve SES balance, they resulted in an increased number of student reassignments, and it's important to take note of that tension. Another example is that the scenarios that had included school closures, there was an impact on transportation or on our neighborhood or community schools consideration. This does conclude our redistricting study commission. We have gathered great insights about the two board priorities. The redistricting commission has proved clarity around the community considerations, which I highlighted earlier. In addition to the 6 findings which I shared tonight, we've learned a great deal about redistricting within MCCSC, including the research related to that, both with the commission members and our leadership team. Future redistricting work in MCCSC would not be possible without the work of the Redistricting Commission. I feel like we've learned a great deal that will be very beneficial. And finally, I want to thank all the commission members for their time and efforts. I highlighted the amount of time and meetings that they have gone to. I think about our first meeting was a year ago in April, so it's been a year-long process, which really highlights the community engagement that we've been able to participate in. I'd also like to highlight Dr. John Baton for his support as both a commission member and helping us develop the interactive tool for creating boundary maps. Finally, I'd like to thank our redistricting leadership team, including Dr. Blaine Garman-McLean, for their support throughout this process. At this time, that concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Dr. Dowling. Are there questions or comments from the board? Dr. Dowling and Dr. McLean, thank you so much for all of the work that you've put into this. And again, I want to second your thank you to the community members who participated in this process. I know it was difficult in a lot of ways, not only time. You've given us a lot to think about, and you've noted the sort of the ways in which you're sort of passing the baton back to us. And I appreciate that you have outlined the things that now we need to take into further consideration. I think it's a lot for us to digest as a board. I know myself, I haven't had time to think through all of the implications of the report. Can I ask from the board, and we clearly need to talk about this again. Does anyone have an idea of what a reasonable timeline is for us to do our homework so we can bring this back for our discussion? Or Dr. Winston, do you have an idea of when you want us to consider it again?
Are you saying how long to read the full report and
Yeah,
discuss
exactly.
it at a board meeting?
Yeah.
Oh, I think we need to get through May.
Okay.
And like June. I think maybe at our retreat, is that something we discussed there? You know, I'm learning all the policies, so is that something
we could certainly review and discuss that at our retreat.
That would be ideal at our June retreat. I mean,
Perfect.
would you all think? I think so. I think our June retreat would be ideal.
Thanks, Jana. I agree with that. Yeah, that makes sense.
President Cooperman, may I?
Of course, please.
I really just wanted to take a moment to thank Dr. Dowling, Dr. Blaine Garman McLean, all of the members of our commission. One of the comments that Dr. Dowling shared at the very end is that any future work or decisions that might be made in reference to the possibility of exploring activities related to a redistricting or consolidation process, there's no doubt that we are much better equipped today as a result of the work of this commission. And it has been a labor of love in so many ways. I know I've learned a lot. I've so appreciated Dr. Dowling and Dr. McLean's work in this effort. And just they talked about 25 hours of time with the commission members. What they didn't speak to are the probably hundreds of hours, and I'm not even exaggerating, that have been taken by themselves to research, to prepare, to prep, to review, and to compile all of this information that's been gathered, very rich information that's been gathered throughout this process. And that is no small feat on top of the daily jobs that they do. And so I just wanted to publicly recognize your leadership and your work and all that it means for the future of this corporation, because we recognize that we are in a unique time from an economic perspective, from a financial perspective, and from the state of education and public education here in the state of Indiana. So I think there are some opportunities here, and I welcome the opportunity to have more discussions with the board in the coming weeks and months and this summer to get a better understanding of the direction that you might choose for us to take. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Winston.
Thank you very much.
Thanks again, Dr. Dowling.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, the next item on our agenda is committee reports. Does the board have any comments or reports that you would like to share?
For me.
Well, I did go to that AP. What is that committee called, Alexis? It's the AP.
The High Ability Task Force.
Yeah, I thought it wasn't AP. Thank you. I knew it was something else. But some of my report was already given. I was really impressed with the 56% of the students who took at least one AP or dual credit. But also, I really like the quote that was shared. She said, "It's really hard to grow when you're not exposed to new or above level grade content." And you saw in your, I can't remember your name, but Mr. Kilpin, your report that we're exposing our students so that we can have these offerings. So I was really impressed with that, but that's all I'll say because he took the rest of my report, which was great. But I was happy to go, be able to go to the meeting this last time. And that was our last one of this semester.
This isn't a committee report, but I did have the opportunity to go to Healthapalooza last week, which was initiated by our own board member Wyatt when she was at Templeton Elementary, and this is always just such an amazing event, and I want to thank everybody who participated in putting that together, and all of the community organizations that came out to host a booth. It's just a really valuable resource for our community, so I really enjoyed that.
I'm so happy that it's continued on. I think it was 2018 when I started it, so it's been, 8 years now? So.
Amazing, yeah. Awesome. Yeah. They were doing diabetes screenings on site there this year, so yeah, just
awesome.
a really, really, really great event. Any other comments or reports from the board? Dr. Winston, do you have any additional information you'd like to share with us?
Just a couple of items, thank you. The Strong Schools, Strong Community Advisory Council, we had our first meeting 2 weeks ago. As part of the Strong Schools, Strong Community Advisory Council, my team and I are seeking public input through a community survey to help inform long-term planning that will help us in sustaining academic excellence. You heard a lot about the academic excellence at the secondary level this evening. We want to make sure that we are in tune with the wishes and the input of our community. Strong School, Strong Community Advisory survey can be found on our website. And our second meeting is actually scheduled for tomorrow evening. Excellence in the Performing Arts. On Saturday, April 18th, I had the wonderful opportunity, along with a few board members, to host a distinguished group of local community theater arts directors for Bloomington High School North's production of God Bless You, Mr. Rosewater. The afternoon provided a wonderful opportunity to highlight the exceptional talent and dedication of our student performers, whose work on stage reflected both artistry and professionalism. Equally impressive was the contribution of the Hoosier Hills Career Center's culinary program, which you heard a little bit about earlier this evening. Under the direction of Chef Josh Kane, our students thoughtfully prepared a selection of charcuterie boards for our guests, demonstrating both technical and presentation skills. It was delicious and beautifully prepared. This overall event was a true celebration across disciplines, showcasing the strength of our performing arts and career education programs while fostering meaningful connections within the local arts community. What a wonderful event. We look forward to doing more of those throughout the corporation. The MCCSC Hoosier Youth Philharmonic is the combined orchestra of Bloomington High School North and Bloomington High School South. This group of student musicians placed first, did you hear me? I said first, as the highest scoring ensemble in the high school string orchestra AA category at the 2026 Festivals of Music competition held last week in Chicago. In addition, both orchestras earned a gold ranking at the Indiana State School Music Association statewide contest. 68 student musicians from North and South participated in this competition. Their top placement reflects months of preparation led by MCCSC orchestra teachers and HYP directors Joshua Blog, I don't know if I pronounced his name correctly, and Christopher Hertz. I want to congratulate our students, parents, and directors for their dedication and commitment to excellence. We are extremely proud of these accomplishments. And finally, Health Occupations Students of America, HOSA. Students from Hoosier Hills Career Center earned strong results at the HOSA Future Health Professionals State Leadership Conference that was held April 15th through the 17th in Indianapolis. And several of our students placed in the top 10 across competitive healthcare events. Participating students included students from MCCSC and partner high schools. Among them, Bloomington South Junior Sid Patel stood out by not only competing but also being elected vice president onto the executive council for the 26-27 school year. He competed and placed in the top 10 statewide in various testing events. Behavioral health, first place. Family medicine, sixth place. Research, writing, and speaking, seventh place. In addition, 2 additional students also placed in the top 10. Bloomington North student Kirsten Candelaria, who placed 4th for home health aid, and Reed Greenfield, who placed 8th in ATC, microbiology, and 6th in pathophysiology. Through Hoosier Hills, students can earn industry certifications before they graduate. They can also take dual credit courses to gain both high school and college credit. We are so very proud of all of our students. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Dr. Winston. Do we have any comments from the board? All right, thank you to everybody who presented today. The next regularly scheduled board meeting will be held on Tuesday, May 19th, 2026. We are adjourned.